Yu-Gi-Oh has been around for a hot second now, and even someone who has never directly encountered the card game for lawyers and crazy people has probably absorbed something Yu-Gi-Oh related from the world around them. The game has broken containment and infested properties in every corner of pop culture, like a Parasite Paracide in the world stack, and this list is a rundown of Yu-Gi-Oh's 10 appearances in other franchises. To show the full reach of Yu-Gi-Oh's influence, I won't be including times Yu-Gi-Oh appeared in other anime and manga on this specific list, but trust me, there are enough of those to make their own. And right from the jump, we're opening this list at number 10 with the multi-franchise crossover fighting game Jump Force. First released for the PS4, Xbox One, and Windows system in February 2019, Jump Force had 40 playable characters from 16 different series at launch. Time would deliver both a Switchboard in August of 2020 and 17 more characters, with 14 as DLC and another 3 added in a free update. Time would also bring an end to the game's easy availability, as disappointing sales led to the shuttering of its online service in August of 2022. The central story of Jump Force saw the real world colliding with the many worlds of the manga published in Weekly Shonen Jump magazine, including Yu-Gi-Oh! While the Yugi gang wouldn't enjoy the same story mode spotlight as other Shueisha characters like Son Goku, Naruto Uzumaki, Jotaro Jojo Kujo, and Luffy, Yami Yugi was available as a playable character from the start, with Seto Kaiba claiming one of the DLC slots. Jump Force's gameplay was mostly 1v1 fights between two teams of 3 anime characters. Each character had their own movesets and combos, and would have access to support from their 2 teammates, with the option of switching which primary character was active in the fight. So yes, this does mean you could have Dio Brandy fight with both the Pharaoh and Kaiba waiting in the wings. In the actual ring, both Kaiba and Yugi fought using their cards, with Kaiba's moveset utilizing his Blue Eyes White Dragon, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and Obelisk Tormentor, while Yugi used Dark Magician Girl, and Slifer the Sky Dragon. But while Jump Force is a pretty big extra franchise property, it's not as out of the blue as some of the other pieces of media we'll be recapping over the course of this list. Because of course Yami Yugi and Seto Kaiba appeared in a crossover product unifying Weekly Shonen Jump properties. Still, it's pretty cool and well earns its spot at number 10. And with over 9,000 individual episodes, the number 9 pick for this list is an institution of public television. We're talking about the popular quiz show Jeopardy, and the time Yu-Gi-Oh was the answer to a question. The date is October 22nd of 2004. The day, Friday, 3 11-year-old contestants take the stage for Game 5 of Jeopardy Kids Week. They have 6 categories to choose from on the first board, including state capitals, rated PG, movie Munchables, bunnies and books, Crayola colors, and Wheel of Jeopardy. Between clues about seriously twisted Bavrovian snacks, pretzels, and topical movies like Agent Cody Banks, lurked a really difficult prompt that would go on to become a triple stumper. For $800 in the Wheel of Jeopardy category, nobody was able to identify what the game meant by "Before dueling in this game, you must greet your opponent with a friendly handshake." While the use of the term dueling was probably the intended giveaway, you can't really blame the contestants because they're kids. And also, the handshake thing is a little confusing. But because the question was Wheel of Fortune themed, the players also received another clue, blank blank dash blank I dash O blank. If only the candidates of Jeopardy episode 4360 knew about the handshake power of yugioh friendship. And at number 8, we're pivoting from live game shows back to animation. The Venture Bros is a cartoon that ran for 7 seasons on Adult Swim. First debuting February 16th, 2003, with its TV finale running more than 15 years later on October 7th, 2018. Though there was a follow-up movie, The Venture Bros, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon Heart, in 2023, the episode we'll be talking about for this list is Season 3, Episode 11, the 37th episode overall, titled Orb. By this point of the show, the viewers are well acquainted with the core Venture cast. Firstly, there's Dr. Thaddeus Venture, better known as Rusty, the grown-up and washed-up child star of the in-universe Rusty Venture Show, a parody of boys' adventure cartoons from the later 20th century like Johnny Quest. Scarred by his experiences as the mascot of his dad's adventuring team, little Rusty Venture grew into a grouchy echo of his father, and has 2 kids himself, Hank and Dean Venture. Cursed with the intrepid Venture spirit, Hank and Dean idolized their father in his glory days, pursuing adventures and quests of their own. To protect Hank, Dean, and Rusty from various corporate, nation-state, and supervillain aligned interests is Brock Sampson, professional bodyguard voiced by Patrick Warburton. Ruthless with his knife, Brock's surprisingly soft interior self is protected by a titanium shell of barely contained rage, with both facets of his character put to the test by Season 3, Episode 11, Orb. Deciphering a series of clues peppered throughout old episodes of the Rusty Venture Show, the Venture Bros and their dad and some friends unearth items buried outside Brock's basement room, causing a minor landslide to dump them in through one of the windows. Brock isn't thrilled with the mess, but is intrigued by Rusty's findings, which includes 2 boxes and one addressed to the Venture bodyguard. While the first box leads the gang on a scavenger hunt to procure an item of great power known as the Orb, Brock learns from a phonograph roll in his box that his real assignment is to protect the orb rather than the Venture family. If Rusty finds the orb and is determined to unlock its secrets, Brock has to stop his charge by any means necessary, including lethal force. While Brock has less than no qualms about ending lives, even he struggles with this assignment. When Rusty finds the orb, Brock looks on from the shadows, knife drawn. We never find out if Brock would have gone through with this order in that moment, since Rusty decides against the item's use in a surprisingly prescient act. Brock is relieved that he doesn't have to find out what he would have to do either, stashing his knife and melting away. It's tempting to just assume that Brock Sampson, the unstoppable killing machine that he is, would have just ended Rusty right then and there. But it is noteworthy character development not only for Brock to show restraint, but also feel relief over narrowly avoiding violence. Okay, but what does this have to do with Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, while Rusty and associate Billy Quizboy made some actual discoveries while digging around Brock's room, Hank Venture made a few finds of his own. These included a strange coin, a shoe, and a mysterious trading card that he says is Ancient Gear Fist. But if you look closer at the card, it looks more like a generic fantasy orc and says Warrior Zhao, which isn't a real card. These items are quickly claimed as belonging to the rest of the gang rather than being buried treasure, with the shoe returning to the Venture associate Pete White and the coin and card belonging to Hank's brother Dean. The coin is actually a POG, and the card has never seen competitive play in the TCG. But with only one print in the 2007 Structure Deck Machine Revolt, Ancient Gear Fist is an equip spell that can only be paired with an Ancient Gear monster. At the end of the damage step, if the equipped monster remains on the field, Fist can destroy the attack target if the target is also still around. In terms of utility, there's not a lot. Maybe in a sealed Structure Deck duel, Ancient Gear Fist can let your Ancient Gear Engineer pop a defending Exod Master of the Guard from the 2006 Structure Deck Invincible Fortress, but even that's unlikely. Still, Ancient Gear Fist is a fitting card for Dean Venture to own, since the Ancient Gear castles and fortress full of buried Rusty technology is the exact kind of setting the Venture Bros would visit in their show. From Venture to Adventure, it's time for number 7. Season 4, Episode 14 of Cartoon Network's Adventure Time first aired on July 16, 2012, with the title Card Wars. The episode begins at the tree fort where local protagonist Finn is snacking and vibing when local dog Jake shows up. He's bummed because no one wants to play Card Wars with him. Local mythical creature Lady Raincorn is tired of Jake beating her, while local sentient Game Boy BMO has sworn off playing such games with Jake, and Finn soon finds out why. Apparently, Jake is super sweaty, and quickly turns what could have been a fun, friendly match into a teeth-gritting sweat fest. Perturbed by Jake's visual signs of distress, Finn suggests taking a break, which is not received well. Still, he manages to sneak off to consult BMO, who explains that one time it beat Jake at Card Wars, and then Jake didn't talk to it for like a month. But that's not all that's at stake. Before the game, Finn and Jake agree that the winner would be the cool guy and the loser a dweeb. Deciding that the fall would be worth the penalty, Finn tries to throw, but struggles to do so, and the game looks intensely close for a second before Jake finally wins. Finn drinks from the dweeb cup and then manages to convince Jake to do the same by lying that it tastes good. The game they play, Card Wars, takes inspiration from Yu-Gi-Oh! And other cards like Magic the Gathering. The gameplay of Card Wars in the show contains 2 core elements: corn and learning. The corn cards being powered by corn fields provided each player at the start of the play. While the game's environmental foundation perhaps put it closer in similarity to Magic, the Card Wars mobile application developed by Kung Fu Factory and released on February 8, 2014 was a melange of different card game inspirations. You had your monsters and your support cards, plus lands like Cornfields, Useless Swamp, Blue Plains, and more. Unfortunately, on December 11, 2019, Cartoon Network announced that the Card Wars and its sequel, Card Wars Kingdom, were both shutting down, with servers going offline January 28, 2020. It's time for number 6. From April 4th, 2010 to February 16th, 2014, the sitcom Good Luck Charlie ran on the Disney Channel. The situation behind the comedy is that Charlie is a baby in the family that includes Bob the dad, Amy the mom, PJ the brother, Gabe the other brother, and Teddy the sister. Teddy starts keeping a video diary to advise Charlie on someday being a teenager in the family, and she or another family member sign off episodes/entries with the phrase, "Good luck, Charlie." In episode 6 of season 2, Teddy has a crush on Even, a guy from Swim. While he's dropping her off after practice, he has a weird encounter with Gabe, who explains to Teddy later that they know each other from locals' Pokio, a bizarre fusion knockoff of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Realizing that Even is embarrassed she might know about his hobby, Teddy gets Gabe to teach her how to play Pokio so she can reassure her crush that she thinks it's all cool. She socially engineers Even to organically discover their shared interest in Pokio, but this backfires when Even, thrilled, invites her out to his live-action roleplay group. Teddy gives it a shot, but Even and his friends turn out to be really annoying. Crush over. Looks like this one's another L for the Yu-Gi-Oh community. But listen, someday, if you choose to get into card games, well, good luck, Charlie. And at number 5, we have a show that's still running. Beginning on December 17th, 1989, with 36 seasons and 801 episodes at the time of scriptwriting, it's The Simpsons. Created by Matt, this show represents a satirized image of American suburbia. With the dad, Homer Simpson, mom, Marge, son, Bart, and daughter, Lisa, and their other daughter, Maggie, it's currently the longest running American sitcom and animated series, and in episode 11 of season 15, we have a Yu-Gi-Oh sighting. The episode in question, Magical History Tour, begins when Marge takes her brood and their friend Milhouse to the Springfield Library to study, only to find the library has seen much better days. There are cobwebs everywhere and very little books at all, with a few holdout spots taken by mostly uninteresting items, like price guides. But this is a Yu-Gi-Oh list. We are hugely interested in The Simpsons' official edition of the 2004 Yu-Gi-Oh TCG Price Guide. The bulk of the episode is devoted to historical reenactments, as Marge recounts the stories of famous figures like Henry VIII, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea, Celeria, and Mozart, with a few Simpsons-style comedic twists, of course. But although the Yu-Gi-Oh Price Guide served within the episode as an artifact of civilization's decline, we know different. With the amount of text that can fit on a modern Yu-Gi-Oh card, the library might be the best place for them. The amazing world of Gumball is rife with comedy, absurd situations, and also horrors. At episode 16 of season 5, The Matchmaker, this show blends together all three elements to claim the number 4 spot on this list. Gumball discovers his fish brother Darwin crying over a picture of his crush, crooning a power ballad to his unrequited love, Terry, a hypochondriac paper doodle bear. Determined to help his brother, Gumball enlists the aid of Carrie, their classmate and ghost. Carrie is actually in love with Darwin, and despite sabotaging Gumball's initial efforts, eventually makes peace with the situation, helping her crush get set up with someone else. The core irony is that Darwin was never singing to Terry, but rather to ghostly Carrie, whose incorporeality prevents her from being shown in photographs. And Gumball jumped to the wrong conclusion. While most of the entries on this list have referenced Yu-Gi-Oh as a trading card game, the amazing world of Gumball digs deeper. Rather than taking the easy reference path of using a card game or crazy hair, the show evokes a specific Yu-Gi-Oh moment. Fired up and determined to help his brother, Gumball blurts his plans out loud, and while doing so, mirrors Joey Wheeler's iconic scary chin face. Popular for its jump scare intensity, this is a deeper cut Yu-Gi-Oh reference than most others, and even though it's brief, deserves a high spot on this list. Now let's shake things up a little bit with the number 3 spot on this list going to The Man from Nowhere, a South Korean neo-noir action thriller. Released on August 4th, 2010, this movie held the number 1 spot at the box office for 5 weeks straight, and garnered numerous awards for cinematography and brutality. In the film, Cha Tae-sik lives quietly as a pawn shop owner. Reclusive, he doesn't keep many ties to the world around him, but he's generally amiable and on friendly terms with So-mi, a child from the same neighborhood, and this is where the Yu-Gi-Oh connection comes in. So-mi gives Tae-sik a Yu-Gi-Oh card as a gift. While not a real card from the TCG, Dark Knight has 8 levels, a dark attribute, and 2300 attack points, and despite being an effect monster, has a warrior text that says, "Escape from the Baron's castle. When the sun rises, it hides in the shadows. Battle rate 99%. Cards on the field, and the rest is covered up by his finger." Thematically, this card represents Cha Tae-sik. Over the course of the movie, we, the audience, as well as various doomed antagonists, learn that far from always being a pawnbroker, Tae-sik used to operate for the South Korean Army's Covert Intelligence Division. After the assassination of his wife, he withdrew from the world, but is violently pulled out of seclusion by an organized crime ring that kills Somi's mom for her debts, abducting her daughter in the process. Taisik again takes up the mantle of the Dark Knight, carving a bloody trail that only ends when Somin's kidnappers are all dead and the girl is safe. Notably, this movie was the 5th and so far final cinematic role of famously selective actor Wan Bin. In March of 2012, Dimension Films acquired the right for an English remake of The Man from Nowhere, and the director of John Wick signing on as a producer in August of 2020. If the English language film is made, what Yu-Gi-Oh card do you think the new Man from Nowhere will receive as a gift? Rugrats was an American cartoon from the 90s that began August 11th, 1991 and ended August 1st of 2004. But Rugrats is not this list's number 2 picks. Instead, this spot goes to All Grown Up, the animated sequel series that ran from April 12, 2003 to August 17th of 2008. In Rugrats, the main characters are babies, and the show chronicles their baby adventures from their wide-eyed perspective. In the time of All Grown Up, the familiar toddlers are now teens, living through all kinds of coming-of-age sitcom hijinks, including the one from episode 3 of season 3, where Chucky Finster gets really hooked on Yu-Gi-Oh! The episode is called You Gotta Go, and everyone at the gang's school has started playing a card game of the same name. Everyone, that is, except Chucky, the archetypal nerd of the group who somehow missed out on everyone else getting into a trading card game. Chucky quickly makes up for lost time, however, becoming totally obsessed, and specifically fixating on pulling a copy of the Red Mirror Dragon, a parody of the Red Eyes Black Dragon. This is fitting because Chucky is kind of an underdog. He's super anxious, but has the potential for bravery inside of him, and potential is kind of Red Eyes' whole thing. Anyway, he starts doing Angelica Pickles' chores in exchange for more cards, but it's never enough. He needs more. Taking note of his son's passion for collecting, Chaz Finster presents his stamp collection, growing in quantity and value since Chaz began holding on to them when he was 12. Chucky immediately sells the stamps so that he can buy more You Gotta Go cards, which he later regrets thanks to an intervention from his friends. Luckily, Angelica is really good at lying and manages to bluster the card shop employees into returning Chucky's dad's stamps. The episode ends on a heartwarming beat when Chucky and Chaz going out to get ice cream, when Chaz reveals that he bought some cards for Chucky. Despite having sworn off You Gotta Go, Chucky opens the pack and then finds the Red Mirror Dragon. But this episode's connection to Yu-Gi-Oh is even deeper. In the world of the All Grown Up show, there's a show of All Grown Up, Yu-Gi-Oh World. Chucky is a fan of this cartoon and imagines himself in the place of the crazy-haired protagonist, Yu-Got, a parody of Yugi. The episode opens with clips from the You Gotta Go show, where the voice of Yu-Got is provided by voice actor Joshua Seth. He's an interesting guy, who did some voice work for the Digimon anime before hard pivoting his career into becoming a comedian hypnotist. But Seth contributed something else to the world of anime. He was the VA who trained Dan Green, the voice of the Pharaoh from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Where some Yu-Gi-Oh! References in pop culture are brief, anyone with the most casual knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh! Will recognize the real card game All Grown Up is parodying. For the strength of this association, the show well earns its spot at number 2. The number 1 spot on this list is a reference to card games that goes to a different card game, Inscryption. Developed by Daniel Mullins Games, this 2021 deck-building roguelike with horror elements pays homage to Yu-Gi-Oh! In a huge way. But before I talk more about this mind-bending game, it's worth saying that if you haven't heard of Inscryption before, or gotten the chance to play it yet, you might want to do that before finishing this video. While I'll steer away from spoilers where I can, it would be impossible to do so entirely while accomplishing the purpose of this list. Inscryption is a surprising and twisty game that you should experience for yourself first, if so inclined. And with that out of the way, let's talk about card games. Inscryption begins in a dark room where a haunting pair of eyes beckons you to play a game. You're able to advance your figurine by engaging in card game encounters, and the extent of this campaign sees you traversing various landscapes and squaring off against multiple bosses. The actual game you play is built around the mechanic of sacrificing small creatures to call upon stronger ones, similar to Yu-Gi-Oh's Tribute Summoning mechanic, but the references don't stop there. Beyond the dark room sprawls a confusing and tumultuous world of card games, with various game masters all locked in conflict with each other. Like in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh, a sinister magical current runs beneath what you see on the surface, and this shadow presence is felt at the periphery of every corner of Inscryption's bizarre world. But eventually, after many duels in many forms at many places, the player arrives at the end. A world is ending, and the player engages in a final, merry shadow game complete with dual disc, life points, and a field reminiscent of TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! You duel until the lights go out and everything fades. You summon, attack, draw, defend, and react to your opponent in a strange duel that's more dance than conflict. Whether the world ends tomorrow or in 10 million years, the meaning lies in the action, not in the conclusion. So draw your next pathetic card. Let's dance. Alright, and that's the list. But if I missed your favorite Yu-Gi-Oh reference in other media, or if you have more ideas for future videos just like this one, I'd love to hear about them all down in the comments.